All right, this is the 2.1 practice. A majority of your quiz is going to come from this section. All right, there's 4 questions on your quiz. It actually looks like there's 10, but like number 1 or number 2 might be this, but there's 7 answer blanks. So 3 of the 4 major concepts are coming from this section. What I want you guys to remember is your vertex is the H and the K. The H is the X part of your vertex and your K is your Y part. Here, when I talk about the axis of symmetry, it's really important that you guys write X equals. All right, so X equals, and it's the X part of your vertex. X part of the vertex. All right, when we talk about the maximum or minimum value, ladies, the maximum and minimum value is going to be at Y equals the Y part of your vertex. If you don't put X and Y, I'm taking points off. It has to be X equals and Y equals. When we talk about intercepts, you have to write them as ordered pairs. So 0, comma, whatever your Y is, or X, comma, whatever your 0. Or, I'm sorry, your X number, comma, 0. Now, when we talk about range, okay, you have 2 types of parabolas that we're talking about now. We're talking about positive ones and negative ones. So a positive parabola opens upwards, a negative parabola opens downwards. There's only 2 choices for range, right? Range is from bottom to top. So it's negative infinity, the Y part of the vertex, and then positive infinity. Same thing here. Positive infinity is up here, the Y part of your vertex is here, and then negative infinity is down here. If you have a positive parabola, your range is always going to be from the Y part of the vertex up to infinity. It's going to have a bracket on the Y part and then comma infinity. If you have a negative parabola, you see where your parabola exists. We talk about range from bottom to top. So your range, this is range, your range would be negative infinity to the Y part of the vertex. Those are the only 2 options. It's either negative infinity to the Y part of the vertex or Y part of the vertex to infinity. All right, so I'm going to go through here. I'm going to do each type of problem on your quiz. Like I just said, they should all factor nicely, maybe into a fraction, but I don't think I put any that were imaginary or gross square roots that you'd have to plot the point. But on this, you will get some that are imaginary or that you have some yucky square roots. But just understand how to find everything. That's the most important thing. So when I look at number 1, the first thing I'm going to do is just draw a tiny little picture to tell myself which direction this parabola opens. Which way does it open? How do you know it's up?
It's positive.
It's positive. Okay, that tells us a lot of things. I'm also going to label that my A term is 1, my B term is 4, and my C term is 8. I think that's a really good idea to do at the very beginning. Now we can go through and we can answer some of these questions. I don't know what the vertex form is yet. I don't know what the vertex is yet, but I do know if I have a maximum or a minimum. What is it? Is there a bottom or a top? There's a minimum. So there's a minimum, and it's going to be at Y equals whatever the Y part is of the vertex. I don't know my X-intercepts yet, but I do know that the Y-intercept is what? What's the constant? 8. If I plugged in 0 for X, 0 squared plus 4 times 0, that's all 0. So my Y-intercept is just the constant. So it's going to be at 0, comma 8. I don't know my axis of symmetry yet, but I do know it's at X equals whatever the X part of the vertex is. What's my domain? Negative infinity to positive infinity. Good. And think about my range. Is my range going to be negative infinity to the Y part of the vertex or Y part of the vertex to infinity?
Y part of the vertex.
Perfect. Y part of the vertex to infinity. So there we have a couple things already filled out. Now the first thing you should find after you fill in all the stuff that you can but just by looking is find the vertex. So I'm going to use that little formula that's X equals negative B over 2A. What's my B term? What's B? 4. So I have negative 4 over 2 times, what's my A term? 1, okay. So negative 4 over 2 equals what? Negative 2. So the x part of my vertex is negative 2. Now what do I do with that x value to find out what the y part of the vertex is?
Plug it in.
You plug it back in. So my formula, y equals, not formula, but the equation is x squared plus 4x plus 8, right? We found the x part of the vertex, and now we're finding the y part. So I'm going to take this negative 2. I'm going to plug it in for x. So just be careful. So I have negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 plus 8. Don't skip steps, guys. What is negative 2 squared? Positive 4. Good. What's 4 times negative 2? Negative 8, and then I have plus 8. So when I simplify this, 4 minus 8 is what? Negative 4, right? Plus 8 gives me what? So y equals 4. So you guys just found out that your vertex is at negative 2, comma 4. I didn't cancel it out. I just simplified it. Negative 2 squared is 4. That's it. All right, so now we can answer almost everything else. What is your axis of symmetry? X equals what? Negative 2. Good. What is your minimum value? Y equals what? 4. Good. What is your range? What to infinity? Yep. Axis of symmetry is the x part of your vertex. Range and maximum is the y part. So now we can do our vertex form. Guys, remember, if you don't remember this equation, you got to get this in your brain. Look at it up here. To write your vertex form, you have f of x equals, what is your a term? 1, so I don't have to write it. Then I have parenthesis, x minus the x part of my vertex. Well, what's minus a negative 2? So plus 2 squared, and then you put the k. So it's a positive 4, so put plus 4. The only computation we've had to do is negative b over 2a, and then plug in for y. This seems overwhelming, but if you guys do and do and do and do, it becomes very automatic, I promise. Now the last thing is our x-intercepts. So I have x squared plus 4x plus 8, and we're plugging in 0 for y. When we have a quadratic and we're plugging in 0 for y, guys, the first thing we look to see if we can do is what? Factor it, right? So I'm going to look to see if I can factor. A times c. Are there factors of 8 that'll multiply to give me a positive 8, but add to give me 4? Yes or no? It's not going to work. So there's two things you can do here. You can do the quadratic, or you can do completing the square. Since the a term, the number in front of x squared is 1, I'm just going to complete the square because it's a little faster. But the quadratic formula will work every time. Watch what happens here when I do this. I have x squared plus 4x plus that box, right? If I move 8 over, it becomes what? Negative 8, and then I have to put the other box, correct? Okay. So I take my b term, which is 4, and I say 4 divided by 2 gives me what? 2. So my parenthesis here is x plus 2 squared. And then what goes in the box? 2 squared, which is? And what you do to one side, you do where? To the other. And then I have negative 8 plus 4 is negative 4. All right, now if I'm going to solve, how would I solve this? Take the what? Take the square root. Well, when I take the square root, ladies and gents, of a negative number, what kind of a number is that? It's imaginary. Is that a real solution? No. So that means this graph will not touch the x-axis. I am not giving you anything like that on the quiz. You will have x-intercepts. This one just happened to work out like that. That's why I wanted to do it. Yes, ma'am. All right, now the last thing you guys are going to have to do is to graph your parabola. Now we should have a really good idea of what this looks like. First of all, which way should my parabola open? Up. All right, if I look at my vertex form up here, look at your vertex form. Can you guys tell me from the origin where my parabola should move? Up 4 and? Left, how many?
1.
What's my vertex?
2.
2. So it should go up 4 and over 2. Where should it cross the y-intercept? What's your y-intercept, guys? You guys wrote the y-intercept right here. What is the y-intercept? 0, 8. Should your parabola touch the x-axis?
No.
No. Okay, so let's just make sure that all of our information is correct. So negative 2, 4. I'm going to go over 2, 1, 2, 3, up 4. You guys agree with me? All right, what's another point I can plot? 0, 8. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. What do we know, ladies and gentlemen, that the axis of symmetry does? What does it do to our parabola? It cuts it in half. So if I have a point right here at 0, 8, how many spaces away from the axis of symmetry is that point? 2. So if I have a point that's 2 to the right of the parabola, where else do I have a point? 2 to the left. Very good. So when you guys plot your points for your parabola, you should plot the x-intercepts, if there are any, the y-intercept, and then you can plot a point that's symmetric to the y. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, I understand when you guys first do this, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so much. I get it. But after you do, I think there's like 10 of these, by the end you're going to be like, oh, okay, it's the same thing every time. It's just a matter of finding the different numbers. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, let's look at number 4. I don't know if it's, just scoot to this one. It's the second page. All right, it says write the equation for a quadratic in, this is we're going to call vertex form, given the vertex and a point. Remember, this from yesterday, we did this right at the end. This is very similar to writing an equation of the line. When I gave you a point on the line and the slope, you had to find the y-intercept. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to label, okay, this is my H, this is my K, because it's my vertex. And then this is a random point that's on the parabola. So when we were doing y equals mx plus b, you guys would solve it by plugging in the random point for x and y. You'd plug in the slope, and then we'd find b, correct? Mm-hmm. What we're doing now is the exact same thing, but instead of finding b, we're finding what letter? A. So instead of y, because right, I have here, watch, if you want to write it out again, the more times you write it, the better, because it gets stuck in your brains. But for my y value, I'm going to plug in 10. I don't know what a is. I got to find it. Then for the x value, I'm going to plug in negative 4 minus the h value is negative 6, and we square that, plus k. I need two things in order to write my equation in vertex form. I have to have the vertex, and I have to have the a. So I have my vertex. I'm just solving now for the a. So now we just do some basic algebra. We work from the inside out. So what is negative 4 minus the negative 6? 2, right? So here I have 2 squared plus 8. All right, I can now say that 2 squared is 4. So this is 4a plus 8. Now what? Subtract 8. Great. Subtract 8 from both sides. So I have 2 equals 4a. Now what? Divide by 4. Guys, please don't tell me that a is 2. What is a? 1/2. Now I have the two pieces of information that I need to write my vertex form. You're just solving for the letter, and then you plug it back into your vertex form. So I have f of x equals, what is the a term that I just found? 1/2 times x minus, what is the h part of my vertex? Negative 6. So minus the negative would give me plus 6 squared, and then I put plus 8. How do you know whether to put a plus or minus for the k value? For the one that's outside the parenthesis. How do you know if it's plus or minus? If it's positive, it's a plus. If it's negative, it's a minus. Questions? Here we go. Let's look at these. Find the coordinates of the vertex for the parabola. What kind of form is 9 and 10 already in? It's already in vertex form. So let's do both of these together, guys. What is the vertex right here for number 9? What's the vertex? 3, comma, perfect. This is my H. This is my K. Remember, when you take the H out, the sign is going to switch. What is the vertex for this problem? -1, 5. Perfect. Good. All right, for these questions, this one says find the coordinates of the vertex. How do you do that? No, we're not finding the intercepts. What's that teeny little formula that I have to use to find x equals negative b over 2a? So tell yourself, all right, that's my a, that's my b, the vertex. That's my c. Find the x part of the vertex, then to find the y, we plug it back in. So I'm going to say negative 8 divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times 2. What's a negative? Negative 8. Positive 8 divided by 4 gives me 2. So the x part of my vertex is at 2. What is the y part of my vertex? How do I figure that out? You plug it back in. 2x squared minus 8x, good guys, plus 3. Just take your time here. So I have 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 3. What's 2 squared? And 4 times 2 is 8 minus 16 plus 3. What's 8 minus 16? Negative 8 plus 3 gives me negative 5. So your vertex, y'all, is at 2, negative 5. Now, they don't ask you to do this on this question, but what's my A term? 2. So if I said to you guys, all right, now that you found the vertex, go ahead and put this in vertex form. It would say f of x equals what? 2 times x minus 2 squared minus 5. Perfect. Good. Nope, it's just asking for this. I just, went one step to just say, hey, let's practice this a little more. Again, I'm going to post all of this probably Sunday afternoon. If I don't, for whatever, it's already done, but if I don't for whatever reason, just shoot me an email and be like, hey, are you gonna? And then I'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot. Just make sure you do. All right, rewrite the equation in standard form, or this equation is in standard form, write it into vertex form. It says use completing the square. Do I have to use completing the square? No, because I just showed you guys, if you find the vertex, if you do negative b over 2a, find the x part, then plug it back in and find y, you can put it in vertex form. You don't have to complete the square. Now, a question was asked about finding the intercepts. Julie asked, can we always use, completing the square work? All right, and then the last one says rewrite the equation in vertex form into standard form. I'm not asking you guys to do this on your test because I know everybody in here can multiply. This is in vertex form. If I was going to go to standard form, so it's at x squared, then x, then the constant, all you're doing is just multiplying. So I have y equals x minus 4 times x minus 4, right? Is that what that means, quantity squared? So then you just FOIL. X times x is x squared. X times 4 is negative 4x. Negative 4 and x is negative 4x. Negative 4 is 16, then minus 1. So in standard form, this would be x squared minus 8x plus 15. But you're not going to have that on the quiz. I know you guys know how to multiply. All I'm asking you to do, excuse me?
We need to do 14 and 15.
You don't have to. I'm just showing you what that meant. If you guys don't do 14 and 15, that's fine. Everything else needs to be done. But if you don't do these two, it's totally fine. Mateo, question?
Yeah, in the quiz, are we going to be allowed to use whatever form we want, or are you going to tell us to use completing square?
No, I'm not going to tell you to use completing square.
Or we can use whatever.
You want me to do 16?
Oh, no,
I can't. I can. It's in They want you to write it in vertex form. So let's find the vertex. X equals negative b over 2a. So this is A, this is B, and this is C. So Julie, I got negative 4, right? Over 2 times 2. So negative 4 over 4 is negative 1. Now to find y, 2x squared plus 4x minus 3. So I have 2 times negative 1 squared plus 4 times negative 1 minus 3. What's negative 1 squared? Just 1, so this gives me 2 minus 4 minus 3. What's 2 minus 4? Negative 2 minus 3, so y equals negative 5. So my vertex is at negative 1, negative 5. What's my A term? What's the number in front of x squared? 2. So if you were going to write this in vertex form, it'd be f of x equals what? 2 x plus 1 squared minus 5. All right, that sounds better than it did 10 minutes ago. If I were to ask you guys right now, what is the domain of this function, you would tell me what? Negative infinity, positive infinity. What is the axis of symmetry?
Negative 1.
No, say it right. X equals negative 1. What is the minimum or maximum value? Is it a minimum or a maximum?
Minimum.
At where?
Negative 1.
Nope.
3.
At y equals.
Oh.
George, tell me out loud. Don't show me. At y equals negative 5. The x part of the vertex is your AOS. The y part is your max or min. You have to put x and y. What's the y-intercept? Where does this graph cross the y-axis?
Negative 3.
At 0, negative 3. Everybody got that? All right, I will upload this so you guys have it, but this is what I would like you guys to do.